This is the Allusionist, in which I, Helen Zaltzman, hit language's snooze button, and language screams back, "I will not be snoozed!" It's the season finale of four-letter word season, and I am sad not to have covered every four-letter word in existence, but I've had a great time, beginning with the F swear and going via dinosaurs, poisonous plants, the bain-marie, a quiz, the scandal suffix gate, to several local parks. And this episode returns to one of the strongest of the four-letter words we have covered, because there is still more to say about it. Content note, this episode contains many Category A swears, and some Category B swears. It's all educational though, not gratuitous or angry swearing, I promise. Oh, and sometimes I hear from listeners asking, what are these swear categories? You can hear all about them back in the very early episode, Detonating the C-Bomb, which also contains information that is related to this episode. On with the show. In the Allusionverse Discord community, we sometimes watch films and TV together, and a little while ago we were watching Legally Blonde, the tale of rich young white woman Elle Woods overcoming the adversity of being too femme-presenting for people to believe she could possibly study law. And as we were watching Legally Blonde, we noticed something happening repeatedly in the subtitles. 3 letters kept being asterisked out, in lines like, "Actually, I wasn't aware we had an assignment. You will get to assist on actual cases. Again and again and again. This is Emmett Richmond, another associate. We already assigned the outlines. Equitable division of assets." Did you deduce the missing word here? The words spoken aloud were not bleeped out, or blanked out, or censored at all, so measures had been taken just to protect people who read the subtitles from the word ass, which is not good subtitling practice, and for added perplexingness, while the Legally Blonde subtitles had censored words like associate and asset, words left intact included some slurs, as well as the word dumbass and ass. I don't understand these priorities, but I do understand that this is an example of what is known as the Scunthorpe problem. The Scunthorpe problem is a technological problem whereby content gets blocked or censored because a string of letters, an innocent string of letters, contains what would be, in other contexts, a rude word. The reason this happens is at some point some human has compiled a block list of words that in their whole form might be a problem, slurs, swears, that kind of thing. But of course language isn't that simple, or at least the English language isn't. You can't spell Scunthorpe without Shorp, and programmers can't program for every possible context every word might appear in. And the programs themselves don't know what words are rude and what's not, and moreover, they don't care. They're not sentient. The Scunthorpe problem occurs a lot. For example, in 2020 alone, Twitter blocked hashtags about the British political troll Dominic Cummings. Facebook kept banning users for posting about spending time at the seafront park in the southern England town of Plymouth that is called the Hoe. Hoe just means high ridge. Leave Plymouth Hoe alone. That same year, the year of online conferences, an online conference platform banned the word bone from a paleontology conference. If you have a surname like Coburn or Hancock or Wang or Lipschitz, then you probably know the Scunthorpe problem. In South London, the Horniman Museum doesn't receive all its emails. The Canadian magazine The Beaver, founded in 1920, changed its name in 2010 to Canada's History so that its mailouts wouldn't keep getting sent straight to spam. Even the term specialist frequently gets blocked for containing Cialis. Cialis isn't even a swear, it's a brand. And good luck bragging about graduating cum laude or trying to run a website about shiitake mushrooms. There's also a subset of the Scunthorpe problem known as the clubbutic problem, where the word in question gets replaced by a more euphemistic one, resulting in messes like the Butt-Associated Press, the game Butt-Buttons Creed, Clubutical Music, or the US Cons Breastution. That's the clubutic problem, get it? British place names are an absolute banquet to the hungry obscenity filter. There are whole counties with names ending in sex. The Scunthorpe problem could have been named after many other towns similarly affected, like the South Yorkshire town of Penistone, Clitheroe in Lancashire, Lightwater in Surrey. I looked at Lightwater for ages on the map and I thought, what's wrong with Lightwater that would get it flagged for rudes? And eventually twigged that it's not the LIGH or the ER. Wake up, Helen! The Scunthorpe problem is named in tribute to the third most populous conurbation in the county of Lincolnshire, the town of Scunthorpe. In case you haven't already clocked why Scunthorpe was chosen as the town to represent this condition, it's because of what I will refer to euphemistically as the cunt word. The Scunthorpe problem was diagnosed in 1996. It made the front page of the Scunthorpe Evening Telegraph on Tuesday the 9th of April 1996. Final edition of the day, it said, "The ban on Scunthorpe and that four-letter word was discovered by retired Steelworks mill controller Doug Blackie of Cole Street when he applied to join AOL UK. Each time he typed in the address Scunthorpe on his application, he was met with the stock reply, 'Your account cannot be processed any further,' Doug Blackie said. So then I typed in my address as Frodingham, and bingo, the block was lifted." AOL had only been going in the UK for 3 months at this time. Maybe it hadn't been faced with the Profanosaurus of British place names yet. The company recommended people respell Scunthorpe as Scunthorpe with an O while they worked on fixing the problem. But this was merely the beginning of Scunthorpe's online troubles. Well into the 21st century, safe search filters blocked the website thisisscunthorpe.co.uk, as well as Scunthorpe District Catsprotection.co.uk. Getting overprotective there. Now, like Elle Woods, I have questions. Why Scunthorpe? How did this happen? How did Scunthorpe get this name that makes it a punchline and a tech problem? Scunthorpe is an old place name. We know this because of the Doomsday Book, which as a name sounds dramatic, but the Doomsday Book wasn't actually apocalyptic. It was the record of a huge survey done in the year 1086. The king sent out men across most of England and Wales to record who held what land and what the worth was of each piece of land and the work thereon, to make sure they paid taxes and land rents to the landowners and that the king got his. Sometimes the taxes were paid in the form of what the land produced, like honey, oats, salmon, pigs, beer, and eels. Whatever happened to eel-based economics? Too slippery? At the time of the Doomsday Book, people using eels to pay taxes and land rents were collectively paying per year more than 500,000 eels. What were the landlords doing with all those eels? And this went on for another 500 years, which was perhaps the point at which the monarch realised that eel money is inconvenient, keeps slithering out of the royal wallet. Good idea for keeping rents down though, paying in eels. Are you raising my rent this year, landlord? No, pay me less rent, please, less rent, I'm drowning here. Anyway, the Doomsday Book is this incredible record of 268,984 households, all the way back in 1086, and a lot of place names that originated from these people's names are still in use today. One such place name being Scunthorpe. In the Doomsday Book, it was written as Escumatorpe. The E at the beginning was what is known in linguistics as a prosthetic E. It didn't change the meaning, it just made a consonant cluster easier for people to say if the word was a foreign word to them. They were used to a bit more vowel, as the Normans would have been then. The middle part of Escumatorpe is Skuma, which was the name of the man who was the head of the household operating on that patch of land. And torp, or thorp, was an Old Norse word meaning hamlet or homestead or estate, so Escumatorp meant Skuma's estate. The Doomsday Book was documenting that Skuma owned that land. So the part of the word Scunthorpe that causes all these problems 900 years later is Skuma's name. And if Skuma was around now, I would love to ask him, what do you make of all this?
I was just some guy, not an important man. My name's just in the book because I owned a piece of land. And there's a town there now, a town that's wreathed in shame. But it did nothing wrong, except it bears my name. It's not my fault, who could predict this? 900 years, and I start causing glitches. It's not my fault, I didn't plan it. It's just a name, like Jane or Joe or Janet. It's just a name, like Jane or Joe or Janet.
In my non-scientific opinion, in British English, ass is not a rude word. And we'd more likely say arse anyway, spelled A-R-S-E. And arse probably wouldn't be asterisked or bleeped out. The words arsenal and arsenic tend to survive intact. The word has a long history out in the open. In Old English, the medlar fruit was called open arse because of what it looked like. Bowel movements were known as arse-goings. Medieval toilet paper was called arse-wisp. Meanwhile, historically, ass, A-S-S, had since ancient times referred to a donkey. In 15th century English, a donkey driver was called an ass man. How things change. There's a little piece of information to file away for whenever you need to give evidence to contradict someone who insists language does not change and is all set in stone. In the 16th century, ass gave us the word easel, because an ass, the animal, bears loads. Arse and ass don't share etymology. They're both from unrelated ancient words that respectively meant bum and donkey. But the similar pronunciation brought them together in people's brains, like how I now have to remind myself which one is correct, home in or hone in. It's home. And 250-ish years ago, polite speakers started calling the animal donkey instead of ass, to be safe. A female donkey had been a she-ass, now it was rebranded as a Jenny or Jennet. If you want an idea of changing mores around this sort of language, there's a play from 1864 by the Earl of Rochester called Sodom. You can probably tell from that title that it is an intentionally provocative and saucy play, and it was probably a satire on King Charles II's religious policies. But in it, there are dozens of uncensored instances of the word cunt, and there are characters called Fuckadilla, Bollocksinian, Cuntiaracia, and Cunticula. Whereas the word they did blank out was almighty. Because what is offensive changes a lot over time. Anyway, like Elle Wood's sharpest mind in the Delta Nu sorority, I have questions. Why Scunthorpe? Because none of this is related to Scunthorpe. There's no reason for Scunthorpe to contain the cunt word at all. In the Doomsday Book, Skuma's homestead was written as Escumatorp, and in the centuries thereafter, while spellings were unfixed, there were several variations, such as Scumpthorpe with a P, Scumthorpe with scum, Scunthorpe with an O, Scomthorpe with an OM, and Scunthorpe with a K. Lots of better options, although the scum ones would bring their own problems. However, plenty choices that would be no trouble. Spam filters would have no quarrel with Scunthorpe if someone had just taken the AOL executive's suggestion a few hundred years earlier to go with another spelling, Scunthorpe with an O, or if they really wanted the Scunthorpe sound without the inconvenience, spell it with a K, which would be fitting because skooma was spelled with a K. Skooma didn't have a rude word for a name.
It wasn't rude way back in history. Nobody had to asterisk me. It wasn't rude, no funny business. It's just a name, like Fanny, Rod or Dick is. It's just a name, like Fanny, Rod or Dick is.
Now, like Elle Woods, most astute law student interning on a murder trial, I have questions. Why Scunthorpe? The town we now know as Scunthorpe grew out of 5 villages: Ashby, Brumby, Crosby, Frodingham and Scunthorpe, all of which appeared in the Doomsday Book. Brumby was the land of a man called Bruni. Frodingham was another guy, Frod. There's also the neighbourhood of Yaddlethorpe, named after Yadwulf. For a long time, Scunthorpe was just part of the district of Frodingham, and all these villages were pretty small, until iron ore was discovered in the area in 1859, whereupon the population swelled with people coming to work in the mines, and the villages became a town. Scunthorpe had become the biggest village, so that name got applied to the whole town.
The town could have taken someone else's name, like my neighbour Frod or Bruni down the lane. Yadwulf, now he was a lovely dude, used his name instead. It's not remotely rude. I didn't think that I'd go down in history. My children died, grandchildren died, who's there to miss me? You can't control how things will go when your life's ended. I didn't know this was how I'd be remembered. You never know just how you'll be remembered. You never know just how you'll be remembered.
All this was inspired by that Legally Blonde watch-along with the Allusionist community. So if you fancy some of that serendipity, like being communally wowed by examples of the Scunthorpe problem, which I think have been fixed now when I went back to Legally Blonde to check, then join the Allusionist by donating as little as $2 a month via theallusionist.org/donate. In return, you also get regular live streams where I read relaxingly from my collection of unusual dictionaries. You get inside scoops about the making of every episode. Last month, you also got a bonus live stream with my other podcast, Answer Me This. And most rewarding of all, you are funding the making of this show, which makes you a patron of the arts and a generous benefactor, whichever you prefer. Pretty cool. To become such, go to theallusionist.org/donate. Coming up next on the show, Words with a Different Number of Letters season. The subject matter of this episode does not feel super appropriate to chase with an in memoriam segment, but this week a friend died, Jonathan Main. I'd known him for close to 20 years. In Crystal Palace, the London neighbourhood I lived in for a long time, he ran the Bookseller Crow, a great independent local bookshop that, to me, really epitomised a great local independent bookshop. The kind of place you'd go in without a plan and come out with a stack of books, and probably some cards painted by local artists too, and the soundtrack was always excellent. I had to buy extra bookcases thanks to Jonathan's recommendations. You can hear him on the show too, way back in the early-ish episode called Big Lit. As well as being a keystone of the community and an invaluable source of local knowledge and gossip, Jonathan was the link between comedians, musicians, poets, novelists, memoirists, writers of all genres, and readers, of course. From behind the counter in a small shop in one suburb, His influence radiated far and wide and reached thousands of people. I hope he knew just how much he mattered. Bookseller Crow managed to survive evil landlords, COVID, awful times in local retail, scores of people browsing and then just ordering what they found on the big online river-named store. But buying from the big online river-named store is so convenient. Yeah, you could stand to inconvenience yourself more for the common good. And now Bookseller Crow has to figure out how to survive the loss of Jonathan. His co-pilots, his wife Justine Crow and the writer Karen MacLeod, are selling books and vouchers for books in person and at booksellercrow.co.uk if you want to help them out during this difficult time. And if you're lucky enough to still have a local independent bookshop where you live and you're able to go to places, go in and shop there. Order books from there. Buy the socks and the mugs and the pencils. Attend events there. There's something about independent bookshops specifically, the communities that can grow in and around them, that is very precious and does not get recreated if or when they're replaced by a vape shop or an estate agent with a promotionally branded mini fridge, or by the big online river-named store with its malign intent. Goodbye, Jonathan, and one of the many, many people who will miss you terribly, and I have several hundred books to remember you by. Thanks for those, and thanks for everything else. Your randomly selected word from the dictionary today is hachures, plural noun, parallel lines used in hill shading on maps, their closeness indicating steepness of gradient. Try using hachures in an email today. This episode was produced by me, Helen Zaltzman, on the unceded ancestral and traditional territory of the Musqueam, Squamish and Tsleil-Waututh nations. The music and singing is by the singer and composer Martin Austwick. You can find his own songs at palebirdmusic.com. And you can hear or read every episode, including all the other ones in 4-letter word season. You can get more information about the episode topics and see the full dictionary entries for the randomly selected words, and find information about upcoming events such as next month's book tour Stop with That Dreamboat Samin Nosrat, all at the show's forever home, theallusionist.org.